Hey guys, welcome to my channel. This is the first episode of Into the Unknown, a place where we will do deep dives on strange topics, anything interesting, all the way from anything in the science world to true crime, mysteries. This video will have some blips as I'm new to this. Like I said, it's my first upload, so have some grace with me. I hope you'll enjoy, and if you do, hit that like button and or comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. Today's video is about the declassified CIA documents that were released to the public, originally recorded in 1983 by a man named Wayne M. McDonnell, U.S. Army. He was assigned to go gather intel at the Monroe Institute about a study they were conducting called the Gateway Process.
So, some of you might wonder, what is the Gateway Process? Well, this entire video is going to let you know exactly what it is. The Gateway Process is a training system that was designed to bring strength, focus, and coherence to the amplitude and frequency of brainwave output between the left and right hemispheres of our brains in hopes to alter consciousness and move beyond the physical world. Coherence is defined as the quality of being unified whole. The purpose of the Gateway Process is to have both sides of the brain working together simultaneously instead of normally how they function separate. Coherence will be used interchangeably with the term hemisync for the duration of the video. But let's make note now that hemisync and coherence of the two brain hemispheres is rare in ordinary human consciousness and only lasts in a short duration of time. So let's take a look at the brain so we can understand a little better. So here we've got a brain, one big old brain. Now let's dissect this brain here into two parts. We have the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere. The left hemisphere of the brain is the self-cognitive, verbal, and linear reasoning component of the mind. The left side functions as a screening for incoming stimuli by categorizing and assessing information, and then it passes it along to the right side. The right hemisphere is non-critical, holistic, non-verbal, and the pattern-oriented side of the brain. The right side accepts all the information being passed over from the left, without question. As you can see, these two sides have very different purposes and operate separately for the most part. So we know that the Gateway Process's main goal is to achieve hemisync, but why? Well, the Gateway Process was essentially created so that subjects could have out-of-body experiences, removing their consciousness outside of their physical self. By definition, an out-of-body experience is described as a sensation of being outside of one's own body, typically of floating and being able to observe oneself from a distance. This can also be related to something called astral projection, which is defined as an intentional out-of-body experience that assumes the existence of a soul or consciousness called an astral body that is separate from the physical body and capable of traveling outside it throughout the universe. In general, the Gateway Process is about finding fast ways to astral project oneself to explore other dimensions of our universe, and they may have the right theory to insinuate this to be true, but we'll get more into that later. So basically, our brain generates brainwaves, and those are measured in what we call hertz. Brainwaves are measured and recorded into EEG patterns. They're also known as electroencephalograms. It is the depiction of the electrical activity occurring at the surface of the brain. And there are 5 main frequencies of our brains. Gamma, which is at 35 hertz, concentration, beta, 12 to 35 hertz, anxiety dominant, active and external attention, alpha, 8 to 12 hertz, very relaxed, passive attention, theta, 4 to 8 hertz, deeply relaxed, and delta, 0.5 to 4 hertz, which is sleep. I know this is a lot to take in. There are many elements to these documents, and to me, it's just so insane that these were even released to the public or that this was even going on. I mean, it's just so interesting. And if you want to know a little more background on it, these are available on the internet on CIA's website. But I took the liberty on reading them all, taking notes, and doing all the research for you. So basically, the gateway tapes are what are used in the gateway process. And this was all led by a man named Bob Monroe. He operated his studies and procedures at the Monroe Institute. He's the creator behind all this. He invented the audio tapes called the gateway tapes that are used to induce and sustain these hemispheres of the brain coming together in coherence. His tapes are also known as the Focus 3 tapes. Dr. Stuart Twemlow, a psychiatrist working at the Institute at the time, he stated that in the Institute's studies, they found that the Monroe tape system on brain waves encouraged a focusing of brain energy, which can be measured like a light bulb in watts, and could be in a very narrow frequency band. Dr. Twemlow also stated in the documents that in his observation, an individual who gets into the tapes beyond the Focus 3, there is a measurable, gradual increase in brainwave size, aka the brain energy, the brain power. These are the tools that are needed to get your body to astral project, out-of-body experience, whatever you want to say. Your soul separates from your physical self is the main point of this study. The Monroe Institute was trying to manufacture a faster and easier way to transcend your physical body. So Bob really wanted to make this study an experiment to see if he could speed up the process, essentially, to get you to astral project. There are natural ways of doing this. And you actually don't need fancy tapes and doctors surrounding you. I know that might sound shocking, but basically there are these common methods used to achieve this hemisync. And it is because of these that Bob Monroe was able to stack his research and knowledge on top of to be able to achieve what he knows as hemisync. So these are the two common methods that can be done naturally to achieve hemisync. And I want to reiterate that all of this information is found in the documents, even this information. Everything I'm reiterating or speaking on is found in the documents. The first one is hypnosis. You know that little dial they show you in movies tick-tocking back and forth? Someone is completely alert watching, then suddenly they gain a blank stare and it looks like no one's home. Well, basically, hypnosis is when the left side of the brain is quieted way, way down to become into sync with the right side. In early stages of the gateway process, hypnosis is used to accelerate it. Hypnosis will distract the left side of the brain through boredom or by being put into a semi-sleep-like state. And then any incoming stimuli can pass unchallenged to the right side of the brain where they can be accepted and acted upon quickly. And then there's transcendental meditation. This is a technique that can also be used to achieve the brain hemisphere synchronization. This requires intense and single-minded concentration of drawing energy up the spinal cord, which creates acoustical waves in the cerebral ventricles, which are then conducted to gray matter in the cerebral cortex on the right side of the brain. As a result, the waves will stimulate and eventually polarize the cortex in such a way that it will tend to conduct a signal along the homunculus, starting from the toes and on up. Wow, that was a lot of mumbo jumbo, and to be honest, I didn't understand all of it because A, I'm not a doctor, and B, I'm not a doctor. So hopefully those images I've just shown you helped you in understanding. Furthermore, achieving hemisync through transcendental meditation is difficult and time-consuming. And the whole point of the gateway process is to achieve the out-of-body experience faster. And using audio techniques, you don't need to do the meditation, you don't need to do the hypnosis. That's the point of his study. To be specific, Kundalini is known as the expert level achieved with meditation. This can take 5 years or longer to be able to achieve anywhere near being able to astral project through this meditation. And it's good to note that it is possible because a person who has 20 years of Zen meditation experience can consistently establish hemisync at their own will for over 15 minutes. So it has been done. It's just very hard. In this document, there is discussion how a shortcut is known to reach these Kundalini levels with exposure to mechanical acoustical vibrations in the range of 4 to 7 hertz for certain time periods. That is definitely something to remember for later. That those brain waves can be manipulated in those audio tapes to put your brain and body into a very sleep-like state. And it is in this state that you are able to remove your consciousness from your physical self. And another conventional way of reaching hemisync is with biofeedback. Biofeedback employs the self-cognitive powers of the left side of the brain to gain access to the right side areas of the brain. With the other methods we have just discussed, the left side of the brain is being subdued, but biofeedback is completely different from these methods, as it teaches the left side of the brain to visualize desired results and then to recognize feelings associated with that. This method is too difficult for me to understand, so I apologize, but I'm just going to leave that where it is. It's really not good for me to speak on something I don't fully understand in hopes I don't mislead any of you. Okay, so now that we have that background information, let's kind of get into the science of everything. We're going to touch more in depth here, so I understand if you leave me at this point. But the main thing I want to talk about here is that this was all being studied in a building with real researchers, real scientists. It's so amazing that this man hired by the army was sent to inquire about this, find out intel. I mean, this document is so intense, so long, so involved, that this man must have been researching this forever. It's amazing, really it is. So that's going to lead us into more about the hemisync and how that was achieved by the scientists. This is the logistics of that. There's a thing called FFR, also known as frequency falling response. According to the documents, FFR must be used to achieve hemisync as well. Our brains are very complex, I'm sure, as you know and picked up on. But during my research, I found out that if a person hears a sound produced at a frequency which emulates a sound associated in the operation of the human brain, the brain will then try to mimic the same frequency pattern. That's what frequency following response is. If a subject being tested is awake but hears frequencies which are at the theta level associated with sleep, the subject's brain will try to alter its brainwave from awake, beta, to asleep, theta. These specific types of brainwave frequencies are outside the spectrum of any sounds heard in pure form by the human ear, and because of that, hemisync must produce them based on a different phenomenon known as the brain's capacity for deducing beat frequencies. Here is an example of what deducing beat frequencies is. Example, if the human brain is exposed to one frequency in the left ear of 10 hertz, below another audible frequency played in the right ear, the brain cannot hear both the different frequencies at once. but then it decides to hear the difference between them, or the beat frequency as they call it. The gateway process scientists would play a variety of different frequencies which are being played at a virtually subliminal, marginally audible level. The whole objective of using beat frequencies, FFR, and hemisync is to relax the left side of the brain, place the physical body into a sleep state, and bring the right and left hemispheres into coherence so that they together can produce higher amplitudes and frequencies of brainwave outputs. I think by now I finally have fully understood this myself. It's also important to note that beyond all these techniques needed, a person must also be able to achieve physical quietude, something that's seen in people who practice transcendental meditation. Yoga and transcendental meditation, if practiced for long enough, can produce a change in the sound frequencies with which the heart resonates through the body. So let's touch more on that heart resonating through the body thing I just mentioned. That's called the bifurcation echo. Our hearts beat 100,000 times a day and pumps 2,000 gallons of blood. With the beating of our heart, it creates a sound called the bifurcation echo. One of the leading scientists at the Monroe Institute, called Bentov, stated that the body can be so relaxed through intense meditation that the bifurcation echo produced normally by the heart can be eliminated. After the bifurcation echo is eliminated, then the sound of the heartbeat can move up and down the circulatory system in harmonious resonance. Once this resonance is created by the human heart, a state of profound relaxation reaches the fluid layer surrounding the brain, and it sets up a rhythmic pattern. Okay, now this is where things get really crazy. And this is sort of a bonus for the video because this is really kind of towards the end of the document, and it really kind of focuses on a crazy theory that we might live in a holographic world. This is where it got really real for me, because this part in the document, it starts to dip into the realm of physics and the theory of living in this way, and I'm going to lead you through it step by step as best I can. So before I was talking about how profound relaxation can create coherent resonance. Well, because of this resonant behavior of the body has now gained the ability to sustain movement despite the minimum levels of energy that are involved. Basically, I'm saying that these documents are saying that you've created so much brainwave energy within yourself while in a sleep-like state that you have now made your consciousness mobile. This is the works of how one would astral project or move outside the physical self. The body has now become a tuned vibrational system, which transfers energy into a range between 6.8 hertz to 7.5 hertz and into the Earth's atmospheric cavity, which resonates at 7 to 7.5 hertz. As the body is vibrating coherently at 7 to 7.5 cycles per second, it results in a regular, repetitive sound wave which propagates in consonance with the electrostatic field of Earth. The body has now essentially met the same vibrational field as its electrostatic medium, which is the Earth. After the subject's body has reached this level, the gateway tapes then instruct the subject to build up on their energy field that is surrounding their body. They believe that a person can now use the Earth's energy field, which the body is now engulfed in, because it's resonated with it. The body's and Earth's levels are matched. This allows for the movement of the seat of consciousness to leave the body. The consciousness can now reside in its secondary environment, as the two mediums, the consciousness and the Earth, have now become a single energy continuum. So that right there was the explanation of the scientific reasoning behind astral projection, the out-of-body experience, how that is exactly achieved in a very scientific way that can help people kind of understand how this would even be possible. And that's what the documents really go into. It talks about the science, it goes into quantum mechanics, things that I'm not well versed in. So that's the best I could do with the information I was given. And that kind of leads us into the hologram example that I'll be going into right now. The example of the 3 pebbles is a good way to demonstrate what a hologram is. Bentov explains the example by saying to visualize a bowl of water into which 3 pebbles are dropped. As the ripples are created by the simultaneous entry of the 3 pebbles, the water radiates towards the rim of the bowl. Bentov says to then visualize that the surface of the water is suddenly flash frozen so that the ripple pattern is preserved instantly. The ice is removed, leaving the 3 pebbles still laying at the bottom of the bowl. Then the ice is exposed to a powerful, coherent source of light, such as a laser. The result then becomes a 3-dimensional model or representation of the positive of the 3 pebbles suspended in mid-air. Holograms are capable of encoding so much detail that, for example, it is possible to take a holographic projection of a glass of swamp water and view it under magnification to see small organisms not visible to the naked eye when the glass of water itself is examined. Lasers are the purest kind of light available to us. The light waves are all one frequency, making it possible to encapsulate and suspend holographic images. It is also good to note that in the documents it states that the key to creating any hologram is the energy in motion must interact with the energy in a state of non-motion. So now we're going to take a look at the time-space dimensions. In order to get a full picture of how this might be possible, how one might be able to ascend their body, travel to different dimensions, or that we might live in a holographic world, we need to understand time and space dimensions. So I'm going to list off a few facts about this. Time is a measurement of energy and force that is in motion. It can be seen as a measurement of change. Energy that isn't contained is a force without limit, without dimensions, without the limits of form. It is infinity. It cannot move because there's nothing beyond infinity, therefore it is outside the dimensions of time. This also means that energy defies space, as it can never be in a specific location. Energy is infinity, no boundaries, no sense of area. Energy is a conscious force, the fundamental primal power of existence. It is a state of infinite being. Energy in infinity is said to be completely at rest and therefore cannot generate holograms so long as it's inactive. Energy in its inactive state of infinity is termed by physicists as energy in its absolute state, or known as the absolute. In between the absolute and the material universe, the one which we're experiencing our physical existence in, are various intervening dimensions to which human consciousness in altered states of being may gain access. Altered states meaning when astral projecting. Theoretically, human consciousness could continue to expand into the absolute, and then the perception will stop because the absolute generates no holograms of or about itself. The absolute is conscious energy in infinity without boundaries. It occupies every dimension to include the time and space dimension in which we reside, but we can't perceive it. To enter these intervening dimensions, one must focus with intense coherence, and that brain frequencies are able to accelerate to the point of a solid line. Achievement of this state of consciousness sets the stage for perception of non-time-space dimensions because of the operation in physics known as Planck's distance. Planck's distance is when the speed of oscillation drops below 10 to 33 centimeters per second. Bentov quoted in the document that quantum mechanics tells us that when distances go below Planck's distance, we enter, in effect, a new world. For an infinitesimally brief instant, the energy reaches one of its 2 points of rest. It clicks out of time and space dimensions and joins infinity. When a continuous click-out pattern becomes established at a continuous speed below Planck's distance, but before reaching total rest, human consciousness passes through the looking glass of time and space, same as after the fashion of Alice beginning her journey into Wonderland.
Through all my research and time spent, I've truly wondered at why the CIA wanted intel on this. But I'm thankful to have been given the opportunity to learn about this and explore it. The human body is capable of so much more than we can ever know. And with the release of these documents, that really proves that. I wanted to add one more fun extra at the end of the video. It's a list of all of my favorite movies that surround the topic of time dimensions. Donnie Darko, of course. This has been in my top 5 movies I've loved since high school. This movie keeps you guessing and asking a lot of questions by the end of it. Coherent. I watched this recently during the quarantine. It was such an exhilarating and thought-provoking movie, and it really has such a great storyline. I definitely recommend that one. And then Alice in Wonderland. I just love the story of Alice in Wonderland, and this modern take on it doesn't necessarily dive into time dimensions, but the movie embodies that she's moving through some sort of time portal. Interstellar is visually captivating and kind of an emotional roller coaster. That was such a great film. I loved that one. And then recently on Amazon Prime, I watched The Map of Tiny Perfect Things. This movie was so adorable, and it had a really soft take on time space dimensions. It's so cute. I love it. Definitely 10 out of 10. Have to see that one. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed my first upload on my channel. Please comment below any feedback or what topic you would want to see next. See you guys soon.